right, I think we're ready to begin. There's no public comment, then you can begin, sir.
I'm sorry.
Nope, there's no public comment, so.
No public comment. All right, thank you.
All right. See the crowd behind you. It's just
Sorry.
overwhelming.
Okay, thank you. Reverend Matias, Ms. Slade, Ms. Downs-Lewis. This morning we have a few items for you. We would like to start off with a couple of items, one of which is an instructional council update, which Mrs. Pat Reagan, she will deliver a presentation on that. And then Mrs. Reagan will stay up here right after that to provide a priority schools year-end report. Mrs. Reagan.
Name.
Thank you for turning the light on. It's good. A little early for that, the lights.
Good morning, Reverend Matias, Ms. Slade, Ms. Lewis. This is the final instructional council update for the 16-17 school year. And, I'm going to just collapse a little bit of the information which I typically read. I think you are aware that our meetings are once a month and typically are located at GRPS University. However, the final instructional council meeting for this school year actually took place at Innovation Central due to the Spanish testing out process that Dr. Kalambula, myself, and Steve Brennan, the teacher who was presenting the course, were assisting with that day at Central. So Dr. Kalambula, an instructional council member and curriculum supervisor, presented a new course for support by the instructional council. The proposed course, Spanish for the medical professions, was the result of a year-long collaborative effort to design a valuable New World Language course to be piloted at Innovation Central in the fall of 2017-18. Spanish for the medical professions is designed to help students develop proficiency and fluency in communicating in both verbal and written form in Spanish that is particular to the medical and health fields. Anatomy, professional conversation, grammar, and vocabulary in Spanish as they relate to the medical field are central to the curriculum. Cultural aspects that may affect professional to client relationships are also explored. The course objectives or expected outcomes are listed for you. The council supported this course, but supported it as a pilot. The purpose for supporting it as a pilot is to allow for some additional work to be done over the summer on assessments and gathering curriculum materials for the teacher who will be teaching it. And also, running it as a pilot will set up the expectation that the teachers actually come back to the instructional council in the wintertime and give us a status update as to how students are doing in the course, what the needs are, and how the community partnerships that will be involved with this course are going to go. Our next instructional council meeting will be sometime during the first semester of the 2017-18 school year, at which point GREA will be the chairing portion of the responsible party for the instructional council. This year it rested with the district.
Thank you. I carry a medical dictionary with me, and there's a lot of words. So.
Yes. At the instructional council, we did toss around a few words. It was like, oh my! But it's a very, very, very rigorous course.
Yeah,
no matter what
excellent.
rubric you use to measure rigor, it's very rigorous. So the next part of the report, Bridget Cheney, who's not able to be here today due to some professional learning opportunities in other states, has asked me in my role as school reform facilitator to present her report that reflects the year-end status of our priority schools. The current list of priority schools and the year in which they are identified is listed here. We the list gets smaller, and that's important. And there are a range of years in which you see listed here right now, working on student achievement with the big three is the major emphasis of all schools, including priority schools, but we really don't know at this point what the exact exit criteria will be for these schools, or at this point when that will be released.
So then the years identified are the years that, so like for Alger, it was 2012 that they were identified?
Yes.
Okay, and they're still in, all these schools are in that process?
Sometimes they're identified in September, sometimes in August. I think there are a few students, or excuse me, a few schools on this list that were identified in December. It's a matter of when the data becomes available and when the comparison of our district data to statewide data becomes available. Schools are listed and named.
And then I think it's the second slide. So the spring CGI reading growth, so the minus is a minus, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That, the spring map testing window ended in the middle of May, and it takes, in particular with schools with multiple grades, it takes more than a day or two to unpack the data, take a look at different grade levels, different subgroups, and different strategies that may have impacted the data. So at this point, as schools are working on preparing a school improvement plan that's due for September 1st, they are digging deep into their data. But right now, we don't have any conclusions to bring forward to you today regarding these schools.
Now, if a school was a priority school and got off from that, how long does, do you watch it before it might become a priority school again?
Well, my hope would be that we watch all our schools all the time and that we are constantly monitoring and being very vigilant and watching.
What I mean is, like, I think Aberdeen had been on the
Right.
priority list.
Right.
And it's been off now. But as soon as their scores go down, they would automatically become a priority school, or would they have?
No, not, that's, priority school is a state designation.
Oh, all right, okay.
And state assessments are one thing, internal assessments and the whole early warning system, depending on how people.
Okay, so these
think of that.
schools that you talked about as priority, they've been identified by the state rather
Yes.
than by?
Yes.
Okay,
Either MDE or SRO,
okay.
and that's another
okay.
lengthy conversation. But I know that Bridget would want me to let you know that she monitors the data with her principals constantly, and is intervening on a regular basis should even the formative assessments or the practice M-STEP results indicate that things need to change. The strategies employed to address deficit areas, these are by school, and these are also strategies that are listed in the school improvement plans for these schools, as well as, if you've heard presentations before that talk about the unpacking tool. The unpacking tool is a tool that was developed by MDE to help schools actually unpack further their goals, objectives, strategies, and activities in the school improvement plan. So these are working documents, not documents that sit on shelves, that people actually are actively working to improve their knowledge of flexible grouping, improve the depth of their work with MTSS, PBIS, in particular student engagement. It's a depth of itself just student engagement in the whole school culture, but also in the learning process itself.
Now, are these developed then by the school improvement committees and?
They're developed with assistance from the district through the academic team, the big three priorities that we have. These strategies must be research-based. The basis of the research needs to be submitted to MDE, but the schools develop their own working plan with, in partnership with the district, very often in partnership with some support from the ISD with regional assistance grant funding.
Now, do these schools receive more funding for support staff and reading?
I would say yes, but that would be a real question to be asking, I believe, Mel Atkins, who manages a lot of that Title I additional support and 31A additional support for schools, because we're in that whole budgeting.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I believe you've had presentations as well on the literacy connections to future work with the ASCD and the Fisher Fry. In particular, if you look at how we infuse learning into practice. Learning targets and success criteria are absolutely connected to the assessment literacy component of the big three initiatives that we have in the district. Gradual release, formative assessment, and culture and climate in literacy. What students and teachers believe about themselves in literacy will certainly impact student achievement. That's where the culture and climate piece comes in.
Could you tell me about the gradual release model? Just explain what that means.
Gradual release, the quickest way I could probably say is I do, we do, you do, and I'll monitor how you're doing as you're practicing on your own. So a teacher might demonstrate a skill or a series of actions that students need to complete to be able to get to an understanding of the task. Then the class would do it as a group. Then small groups might practice. Then students might practice individually all the time. The teacher would be
So it's a strategy,
circulating.
I mean, it's a teaching strategy?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
That.
I'm just wondering how are parents able to understand, so for example, at Coit, they have formative assessments, obviously the positive behavior pieces, multi-tiered system of support. As a parent, how would I understand Coit helping my child, who either might be behind or part of the class might be behind, to understand how the school improvement plan is working at my school?
The structures that are in place with the family and community engagement that is expected of all Grand Rapids Public Schools in connection with what the state and federal government expects regarding school improvement plans and bringing parents into not just the process here, the school improvement plan is done. Let us tell you what we've come up with. Parents are involved in many instances in the instructional leadership team and in the conversations that actually go into the writing of these plans. So it's not just always the teachers and the administrator who are explaining to parents as what this means. Other parents are able to explain to their fellow parents what this means in terms of helping children succeed.
Great, thanks.
Okay, next up, we have Dr. Chris Hanks, who is the principal of the museum school. It's hard to believe that we've just completed our second full year at the museum school and gearing up for year 3. And then next year, those 8th grade students who will become rising 9th graders next summer will be entering the new campus. So to give you a brief update, we provided a pretty comprehensive PowerPoint that we sent to you prior to this meeting.
Yeah, thank you.
Dr. Hanks will be providing some highlights of that PowerPoint and answer any questions you may have. Dr. Hanks.
Good morning.
Good
Morning.
Thank you for inviting me. Yes, I always happy to share what's going on at the museum school, and really include a lot of details and photos that describe in detail. I'll just focus on the questions that have been posed and see if you have further questions this morning. The museum school is a theme school and a center of innovation in Grand Rapids Public Schools. As a center of innovation, it's defined by its partnerships. In our case, it's a public-public partnership. Along with the Grand Rapids Public Museum, of course, our core partners are Kendall College of Art and Design, which provides resources, faculty, and expertise in human-centered design thinking, and Grand Valley State University, which provides resources in teacher education and also expertise in place-based education, and of course, as I said, the museum. As a center of innovation located downtown, we also work with many other collaborative partners. The innovation and design of our program focuses on curriculum that is experiential and integrated. What that means is that our students experience their curriculum as much as possible, not only in an academic setting, but also in direct experience and connection with Grand Rapids, the community, specifically the downtown area, but all parts of the city and the surrounding area, and using the museum as a focal point and sort of a distilled version of that. So the curriculum's organized into projects. We take state standards across core content areas and try to find overlap and connection between standards in different areas, and then develop project cycles which correspond to marking periods in a traditional school that touch on those standards and content across curriculum areas. In the middle school, our objective is to produce 8th grade graduates who are creative, collaborative problem solvers, proficient in self-guided learning, and prepared for a deeper hands-on and experiential model as they move into the high school, which I'll talk about briefly. With the awarding of the XQ grant in September of last year, the work on preparing a high school curriculum and design really accelerated. We've moved ahead, a few weeks ago, construction began on the Museum High School, which is located at 54 Jefferson in the site of the old public museum. Demolition, I think, is wrapping up or recently finished, so that they'll actually start building in preparation for our moving in, as Dr. Gorman said, in fall of 2018. Some highlights of that physical space will be a design studio where students will study advanced computer technology and design, computer-based design, as well as sort of more traditional makerspace or workshop type of experiences. An artifact lab where museum curators will work alongside of our students with museum artifacts, not to prepare them to be museum curators necessarily, but in connection with academic areas. So for instance, the science of preservation, the biology and chemistry of artifact deterioration, the design and skills of digitizing the collection, creating 3D exhibits, virtual reality exhibits, so future directions of the museum that our students will participate in and sort of behind the scenes. We are focusing in connection with those three areas of design thinking, place-based education, and museum studies. This curriculum emphases in the high school will be on design and innovation, global awareness, and sustainability. All students will have direct experiences in each of those areas, and every student will choose one of those as a theme that they emphasize. This aligns, and I'll just do this briefly, this aligns with the XQ Institute's focus on not just academic spheres of knowledge, such as fundamental literacies and foundational knowledge, but deeper learning, or what some call 21st century skills, such as collaboration, divergent thinking, and learning for life, which of course correspond with the district's emphases on social emotional learning and deeper learning skills. There are some slides ahead, and I'm browsing through them, that focus on how we are aligning to those XQ focus areas. If you're sliding through on your own machine, eventually you'll get to a diagram that says Public Museum School Graduate Profiles at the top. And that's simply a graphic that has at its foundation the 5 core learner domains or learner outcomes that XQ has identified: fundamental literacies, knowledge, foundational knowledge, divergent or collaborative thinking, original thinking, collaborative capacities, and learning for life. How those feed into our 3 curriculum areas as a school. And the curator, steward, maker are sort of exemplars of the skill sets that we hope to prepare in all of our students. Perhaps this question's already been answered. How is the museum school different from other schools? But the core, and I'll just revisit them, sliding down to a graphic called Learning by Design Thinking. All of our projects and curriculum material are organized around this design thinking process, where students frame a problem, research it, gather information, and then experiment, brainstorm, ideate, develop their own ideas, theories, or solutions, and then test and try those out. And there's a feedback loop that's built into that process. There are a couple slides of photographs of that process sort of in action. After that, I'm going straight down to the next graphic about place-based education, which is, in short, it's about using our immediate environment as a learning tool, but also developing learners and scholars who are engaged, active change makers within their communities. So it's about citizenship, and it's about empowerment of students to be active participants in the life of their community. We say they learn to and through their environment. And again, there are a few slides of photos, different ways that we're engaging with the immediate environment through place-based learning. And there's a final graphic on museum methods, which I'll just say about this, that the process by which an artifact or an exhibit goes from collection to interpretation, preservation, then interpretation or curating into a presentation has strong echoes in the design process. Again, some more photos, and moving quite far down the presentation, I have some just recent information about where we've come so far. As I'm sure you know, we will eventually serve students in grades 6 through 12. This fall, we'll welcome our original class will enter 8th grade, and we'll welcome a new group of 6th graders. So we'll have 3 grade levels, 60 students per grade level. High school will open in fall of 2018 at the Jefferson Street site. High school will open with 90 9th graders, so our 68th graders will move into that space, and we'll also accept 30 additional students at that time per grade level, and that will be the case throughout high school. Currently,
How was the transition of students who chose to go to the school in terms of where they came from educationally, and then the school's model and how they adjusted?
that's a really fascinating question, because our students do come from all over the city.
Yeah.
And in the inaugural class, the first class, we did have about 9 students from outside of the school district. This year, all of our students were GRPS residents, except I believe 1 student. But they do come from all over the city. About 50% previously in 5th grade attended non-GRPS schools. So there's quite a range of previous experiences. And that's one of our major learnings, I think, over the first couple of years. In fact, next year, we intend to take the first 2 weeks of school as simply culture building
Yeah.
and introduction. What we've done previously is a 3-day summer retreat, so we asked every student, and with 100% attendance,
Wow.
every student came for 3 days, 2 weeks before school began. And we spent 3 days introducing them to the community and the idea of the community being our classroom, so excursions around the downtown. We use the public library as our school library. We use the YMCA for PE classes, those sorts of things. We've determined that that's not enough, and that we'll spend 2 weeks at the start of school in those sort of culture building activities. There's a wide range of previous experiences and sort of expectations. We prepare them intentionally. So for this coming fall, we've met individually with each family of incoming sixth graders for a 45-minute intake interview. Not an application interview, but just to describe the process and really emphasize some of the things I've been talking about, the key features of the school, and then we'll reinforce that in the fall. But and that'll be a question for us again at 9th grade when we absorb, we have 60 students coming up from 8th grade, and we're absorbing 30 more students from other places.
Yeah, I know that at Burton, they have an overnighter for their 5th graders. And that does a phenomenal job of, building cohesiveness in that grade that continues. So it would be interesting. It'd be nice to be invited just to be able to see what you guys do in terms of bringing the kids and families together, where you develop a school culture and an expectation.
I would love to have any of you come and
It'd be nice
visit.
to learn for the rest of our district as well, how we could apply that and build that expectation. Because I think when parents kind of get that sense, then they get more involved and those kinds of things. So I wrote myself a note in terms of how the XQ hopefully is going to be something that we learn to adopt to our district, not just there, but really benefit. How does our district benefit from those lessons?
Absolutely, and I hope that we can be a part of that and
Cool.
sharing what we learn, and we will have, certainly, we would love to have anybody come and sort of spend time with us those first couple of weeks. We're going to supplement that, so soon, within a week after that, we'll have our open house. We found that it's really important for families to meet teachers after the school year has begun, but early in the school year, so that those channels of communication open up. And then we've booked, this year, our 6th graders spent an overnight at Camp Roger in the spring, which was a good experience, but we quickly realized that would have been an even more powerful experience early in the school year. So as early as we could get, which was in October, we have our 6th graders going to Camp Roger to sort of be the culminating experience in that process.
What about kids leaving? Have you, is there any sort of a,
It's a small percentage, slightly larger at the end of this year.
so it's the 6th graders that are moving out rather than the 7th graders that stayed?
Yeah, the 7th grader, so we had about 3 7th graders leave at the end of 6th grade, at the end of their first year, moving away for various reasons. One additional 7th grader is transferring to a different school in the district this year. 6th graders, we have about 6 to 8 who are relocating.
Are they self-moving?
About half and half. So we actually had a few students who, in retrospect, made the choice to attend museum school, either not as a student, but really sort of parent imposed, or really were choosing away from a different school rather than with intention to attend our school, and just kind of realized it wasn't a good fit.
And those spots will be filled in with other people on the waiting
So we have a
list?
waiting list, and we'll be at capacity with 60 students
Okay.
per grade level.
Okay.
Very cool.
So I have a few other descriptions of the demographics about the students. About 50% of our students are white students, about 20% African American, 19% Hispanic or Latino. Others are multiracial, 5% English language learners, 43% free and reduced lunch eligible, 9% special education. I think those statistics reflect that balance we have of we're bringing students from GRPS, but we're also bringing families back to the district who live within the district boundaries but previously attended charter or private schools.
Good. Happy to see you've got some special ed kids.
Yeah, for, next year will be the first year that we have a full-time staff member with, a full-time teacher with a special education credential. So we've shared services up till now. We'll continue to share services, but having someone on site full-time will be a huge benefit in our efforts to serve all students.
Great.
Our MSTEP performance has been positive so far, although with plenty of room for improvement. I like talking about our other achievements. You met one of our students last night who's a poet and exercised her creativity. We had another student, Alana Johnson, on NPR or on Michigan radio a few weeks ago, reading her poetry that she did for the Creative Youth Center. But in things like the citywide art contest, even though we're a very small school, science fair, kids speak events, our students are actively engaged, and I think that speaks a lot about the way we're preparing them to exercise their skills and talents. That's everything. Questions?
That's great, thank you.
This looks great. Must be a fun place to be.
It is.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Hanks. At this time, I would like to ask Mrs. Jane DeGroot to join me. She and I are going to provide just a quick snapshot about our early middle college at Ottawa Hills High School. As you know, the superintendent announced it at her State of the Schools last year, and after a year of planning, we believe we're going to have a very successful program starting this year at Ottawa Hills High School. Just a couple of slides to give you some background information. Why early middle college? Well, college costs keep rising. We understand that training beyond high school is more important than ever, and the workforce needs workers who are college educated. What are the benefits? Well, benefits for parents, saving about $7,000. Benefits for students, after I complete 5 years of high school instead of the traditional 4 years of high school, I will walk out with an associate's degree or equivalent and be able to transfer to a 4-year institution or receive a certificate, which allows me to go right into the workforce. How does it really work? So our students will attend a 13th year of high school. They will essentially take one high school level course in year 13. So to lay persons, they will essentially be college students, but in order for them to continue to get their schooling paid for, we will essentially hold back one of those classes until the 13th year. Mrs. DeGroot is going to talk to you about the requirements to get into the program, because not every student is able to get in. You have to meet a criteria, and also talk about how many students we have and how the process has gone getting those candidates for the program. So Mrs. DeGroot.
Great, so thank you, Dr. Gorman. To get into the early middle college program at Ottawa Hills High School, students must have a 2.5 GPA, and that's a community college requirement to be a student. And so that is the basic requirement. We also ask that students demonstrate good attendance and commitment to learning, and those usually go hand in hand, and we have found that the students that have selected the early middle college have both of those criteria, meet those criteria. Community college is asking that students take the AccuPlacer, or part of it. It's like a college readiness assessment, so we can determine what special supports, if any, the students might need. We have a cohort right now. We're limiting our numbers this year at 50. Our cohort is getting near 40, which will be 2 sections then of a class, because the class size limit for community college is 25 students. We're excited. Students mostly are coming from Ottawa Hills High School, but we do have some students coming from area charters and out of district and other GRPS schools as well, but predominantly from Ottawa Hills High School. We've had 2 interactions with students and parents that have been significant. We had in the winter, we identified students to inform them, students that met the criteria, brought them on a wintry night to Ottawa Hills High School and met with parents and students. It's great to meet with parents. All the parents want to take advantage of it themselves or wish that they could have. Everyone says that. And then we also just recently had an induction ceremony, and it was just so great to interact with students and parents at that time. And the staff and community made a commitment to the students, and the students made a commitment to themselves and one another at the ceremony. It was just really great.
Excuse me, what
Yes.
grade are these kids in now?
These students have just finished 9th grade. This summer, they will have to attend 2 orientations or 2 gatherings. One will be in July at Grand Rapids Community College, where they'll get their ID card and become acclimated to community college and all the resources and benefits afforded to a Grand Rapids Community College student. And then one will be on August 8 at 8 a.m. at Ottawa Hills High School. It'll be a half-day team-building event for them to build culture and have them kind of create the space that they'll be using.
I'm just wondering, you mentioned that that students and parents made a commitment to the program and to the emphasis. What kind of commitment did they make? Like what did they say, what was said? I mean, they didn't
Right.
sign anything in blood, but
No, they didn't sign anything
But
in
I mean-
blood. Like the community that was there, the teachers, the staff, the board members that were there, we stood and committed to supporting our students in every way possible as they go through, and community college was present. Just being there for them, encouraging them, providing the supports that they needed. Then the students stood and committed to do their best and to work together, and just a general commitment of excellence and commitment to their own education. I can get you a copy of that. It was very powerful.
yeah, I just think when we raise those expectations, as opposed to just saying, well, it's public school, but really there is an expectation, and when I as a parent understand that, then I'm able to say, okay, I got to make sure I follow through with my child, or things that I need to do, whether it's attending certain meetings for parents and those kinds of things. So great.
I believe we've already started building community with the parents through these 2 events.
Great.
So,
How big is the entire 9th grade class? Not just the kids that are in this program, but the entire class?
in the district or?
No, at Ottawa
Okay,
Hills.
go ahead.
I would say the entire 9th grade class is probably around 150, maybe a little.
Considerably more than the number that graduated.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. We historically have had larger freshman classes than senior classes. If you look at some of the schools like Innovation Central or Union with really larger senior classes, that's the area where we want to go in the next couple of years. So, as you know, we graduated about 70 more seniors last year altogether, and we hope to do the same, if not better, this year. But
That this program might be encouraging people to take a long, hard look at attending Ottawa Hills.
Absolutely.
yes, and if you think back to the superintendent's State of the Schools address, we were only as strong as Ottawa Hills. So with the investment of the bond, with the different career pathways that we're going to put into place, early middle college being phase 1 of really this new Ottawa Hills, so to speak, I think we're on the right path. And
Now, we talked, I guess it was the other night, about one part of Ottawa being closed. Will this be open to this
Sure.
program here, or that's part of the program that we're putting in that area?
So the vision is to have one house to have early middle college and a comprehensive high school where students will have a traditional high school experience, and the other house having more of a specialty school focus that the superintendent alluded to in our meeting last week.
This particular program is not part of that.
This particular program is not part of the vocational ed specialty track, but it is essentially a small school within a school, right?
Awesome.
The next slide just talks about what if students start to struggle. And we know that things happen in people's lives, students' lives, families' lives, but we will definitely have support structures available from both Ottawa Hills High School and Community College. They have offering their counselor, academic counselor, and other counseling services, and then a success coach as well will be on site for students, and then, of course, our own counselor dedicated to the early middle college as part of his or her responsibilities, and then we have other supports available as well. We also will access tutors from Grand Rapids Community College, and then also engage our mentoring programs that we have started in the district. We do want to really continue to engage parents and have parents contact us along with students if there is a struggle that we don't know about. So that'll be really open and really talked about and strongly encouraged during the orientations and along the way. We intend to wrap around kids. Okay, where will the classes be offered? You did probably receive this in your packet, the program of study. So in grades 10 through 12, all of the college classes will be held at Ottawa Hills High School, where the professors will come to us. They'll take, you can look at that, but like one class each semester in 10th grade, and then it increases each year. But in year 13, as Dr. Gorman mentioned, they will take one class with Grand Rapids Public Schools, and the rest will be held exclusively at Grand Rapids Community College. So the students will be on campus, and they'll be, during those grades 10, 11, and 12, we'll also introduce them to the campus of Community College and help them acclimate to the physical environment there.
So a question that we probably get more than any other question as it regards to early middle college is, do I get to walk with my class? And absolutely.
It's good.
We took a tremendous amount of time in planning this, consulting with colleagues from around the state who already have early middle college programs. The senior year is essentially a typical senior year for students. There will be a prom, there will be homecoming, there will be all of those things, and they will be walking across a stage at Calvin College or wherever else we choose as a school district to hold that 12th grade commencement ceremony. What's nice is, just one piece, the diploma, because they will also be getting their associate's degree after year 13, will be given to them after that year 13 experience. So they will be getting that diploma after year 13 and also getting their associate's degree or a transcript with equivalent credits. And the students get to participate in Grand Rapids Community College's commencement exercises, and the answer to that is yes as well. With this opportunity, they'll be doing it a year before most students who are attending Grand Rapids Community College, because they will have completed much of their coursework throughout their high school experience. So after year 13, you'll get your high school diploma and an associate's degree or equivalent, which we think is absolutely fantastic for our students.
That's great.
Right?
But I just one other
Absolutely.
question. I want to understand. Now, I know we have some sort of a college program that goes on at Union as well, but that they have to qualify for that. Then they just automatically graduate from high school and then have free tuition at community colleges.
So I believe you're referencing the Challenge Scholars. The Challenge Scholars is a program for students who matriculate from Harrison or Westwood into Union High School. Those students who follow that pathway and meet specific criteria around grades, attendance, etc., will be able to go to a school into which they get accepted in the state of Michigan, and their tuition will be covered. It's a last dollar scholarship, so what is not covered through financial aid, scholarships, and everything else will be covered. Those students who do not matriculate from Westwood or Harrison will be able to graduate from Union High School as long as they're enrolled in their freshman year, and then have 2 years of community college paid for.
Oh, okay, all right.
So that's a win as well, and what we're doing on the west side, we're trying to have comparable experiences for our students on the southeast side as well.
If I could add one thing to that.
Please.
The beauty of the early middle college program is that students don't tap into any financial aid until they become junior level students in college.
Right.
That's huge, too.
It's huge for families and students.
So Mrs. DeGroot and many of our team members have been doing a tremendous job recruiting students this year, having conversations with students this year, saying, you are eligible for this program. So Mrs. DeGroot, how are we doing from a cohort standpoint in regards to numbers? So will you share that really quickly?
Yes, we have, I think I mentioned, upwards of the high 30s at this point, and people are still asking for information and still investigating the program. So we hope to have mid-40s to 50 students when we start in the fall. Just like to make one additional note, we are reaching down into our feeder middle schools, and we met with the staff of both, all 3 feeder middle schools, and attended their 8th grade graduation ceremonies and talked to parents and gave them information as well. So we want to start early informing future classes of students about the program.
Feeders.
We considered Sherwood, MLK, Ford, and Alger.
So parents who are interested, of course, can complete the theme school application for their students. We have various numbers provided on the slide of the building principal, counselors, district counselors, and of course, student services. So our hope is to have a few more students in those seats, but we know that right now we have a nice cohort of students who will be graduating in 2021
Yes.
with an associate's degree and a high school diploma. That's the goal.
That's big.
It's
Right?
big,
It
it's
is big.
transformational.
It really is.
Any questions?
Wow. That's
Brilliant.
awesome.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thanks so much.
Okay, we are going to segue into our last presentation. I believe in the past, alternative education in many instances has been viewed as this place where students go who don't fit in or get into lots of trouble, and in many instances, unfortunately, do not graduate from alternative education. And what we've noticed with our alternative education programs in the last, I would say, 3 or 4 years, is that we have many students from alternative education graduating. And of course, we have a large amount of students who are graduating within 4 years, and that's almost unheard of in alternative education. We also have some 5th-year students and some 6th-year students. Ms. Stephanie Davis runs Southeast Career Pathways, which is essentially our traditional alternative education program. She also is in charge of Bethany, and she will speak to that partnership as well. Another alternative education site we have is the Grand Rapids Learning Center, which is housed at Grand Rapids Community College, where the administrator on site is Ms. Sarah Davidson Lefevre, who is now at home with newborn twins, so
wonderful.
she will not be presenting today. Yeah, absolutely. We thought it was important today to really bring Stephanie Davis here. Stephanie's done a phenomenal job at Southeast Career Pathways. I believe she's the right person for the job. Her program has continued to graduate about 40 students a year from alternative education. And alternative ed as a whole in the Grand Rapids Public Schools, we're getting really close to graduating about 100 students a year from alternative education. These are students in many instances who gave up hope, who will now have a high school diploma. So I will stop talking about it, and I will introduce to you our building principal, Ms. Stephanie Davis.
Hi.
Good morning.
Morning.
Right.
Thank you for inviting me. And thank you, Dr. Gorman. he did the segue into learning about alternative programs within the Grand Rapids Public Schools. And so I will talk a little about the programs for alternative ed, and they don't vary much, but they are very different in a sense. So Southeast Career Pathways is a small learning environment, as well as Bethany, and I'm also the administrator of HEX. All the programs are very small, very personal programs with individualized help for all students that we enroll. The program provides students the opportunity to complete the graduation requirements of high school, outlined obviously by Michigan State standards, with focusing on core classes while earning their high school diploma. Southeast Career Pathways is located in the Jefferson Building on Jefferson at 1356 Jefferson. The Bethany-based program offers the same opportunity for students. Bethany is a center-based program serving grades 6 through 12 with a maximum of about 26 students. It varies. Typically, the lowest enrollment is about 18 students, but the maximum that we can house in that program is 26 students. The students at Bethany are court-appointed and placed at Bethany from anywhere from 12 to 24 months. The third program that I oversee is the HEX program, and HEX is interim-based education. It offers education to those students who have received a long-term suspension, and they are assigned to HEX by Student Services. HEX services students in the grades of 6th grade through 12th grade. And that program is based at the Beckwith site. So HEX is located at 2405 Leonard Street. I will take this time now to talk about the instructional models at Southeast Career Pathways. Southeast Career Pathways has the most traditional instructional model. It has direct instruction, as well as we offer E2020. We have a teacher for each core, so ELA, math, and social studies. We do not have a teacher for science. Students that need the science credit, they use E2020 to meet that. We have a 0.5 Spanish teacher to meet the Spanish requirements, and 1 support staff and a 0.5 counselor, which we share with the other alternative school, the Learning Center. The course offerings for Southeast Career Pathways is very personal due to the student enrollment. That's what drives the classes and the courses that are offered each marking period. This is the same at Bethany. This is the same at HEX.
I have a question about the 0.5 counselor, and that's mainly academic? An academic counselor for the?
Academic counselor, yes.
Okay.
So the counselor is at Southeast Career Pathways 2.5 days a week, and at the Learning Center 2.5 days a week. At Southeast Career Pathways, the counselor oversees Southeast Career Pathways, HEX, and Bethany, and then when they spend the 2.5 days at the Learning Center, it's primarily for the Learning Center.
Do they have other support there, social workers, school psychologists?
Only if they have an IEP.
So then that would be somebody who'd come from someplace else in the district just to service that particular student?
Correct. Bethany program differs in the staffing. Bethany, the program itself offers staff for various reasons, but for the educational portion of it, which I own, we have 2 core teachers and 3 tutors, and several support staff from Bethany. The interim education program has 1 core teacher and 1 paraprofessional, and as at Southeast, if there is additional help to meet IEP goals or for resource support, someone comes in and does that, because that is really based on what students are assigned, so that varies. The efforts to meet the unique educational needs of students at Southeast Career Pathways or the alternatives that we serve, our structure is we service grades 9 through 12. We have a very small but highly qualified, dedicated staff. Our enrollment is 85 students. We try to keep it at 85 students each marking period. We try to keep classes at 17-1 for each marking period as well. Sometimes those classes are higher because they are only offered one time that year. Each class period is an hour and 15 minutes with about 3 minutes passing time. We have a later start time than the traditional schools, and we offer night school 4 days a week from 4 to 8. Those numbers typically don't exceed 20 students. And the night school class, we have 1 teacher and 1 instructional tutor. Classes are scheduled and change each marking period versus semester like the traditional high schools.
Excuse me, the E2020 is online?
Yes.
Okay.
So each student has at least 1 E2020 class each day.
And they can access it from home or no?
They can access it from home, from anywhere. Our focus efforts support our students. Southeast is successful because we strive to actually meet students on a personal level. Students tend to do better when they are motivated. We have some students that have met a 2-year deficit in a year, but that is with exceeding 4 classes each marking period and attending night school for the most part. We tune in closely to the transcripts to make sure we are meeting them academically and making sure that they are progressing as they should so that they can graduate and meet the passing or passing classes for each marking period, so we don't have them repeating classes. We monitor attendance, uniforms, grades, and E2020 progress and overall growth regularly. And adjustments are made as needed for each and all students. We encourage and provide students to complete FAFSA and apply for colleges, and we also support them in researching other post-secondary plans. The trends at Southeast Career Pathways vary. Because we have open enrollment, and so our students and our enrollment is always rolling.
Makes it challenging.
It does make it challenging. But when students, typically in a marking period, because a marking period only spans about 40 or 45 days, we typically are very strict and not real flexible in what the start date looks like, because we want to make sure that they can successfully pass the class each marking period, because it will not bridge over if it's an actual teacher taught class. We can do that with E2020, but not with standalone courses. So if a student enrolls within the marking period, we typically put them in an E2020 course, or their schedule really is comprised of E2020 courses, and then the next marking period, we put them in teacher taught classes with only 1 E2020 course. There's really no trend data that we follow because everything kind of rolls. As you can see, the enrollment changes based on all students. We service students with disabilities, students with IEPs. As you can see, it does not vary much among students. This is the same with our assessment data. It varies as well because we are servicing students within the district as well as students outside of the district. So some students have taken some of the required assessments that we have within the district and some not, and some there. So we experience holes and gaps along the way. Southeast Career Pathways eligibility and enrollment requirements are the following. In order to enroll at Southeast Career Pathways, students should meet the following criteria. They need to be in the age group from 17 to 19. Students age out at 20 years old at Southeast Career Pathways. So if they are already enrolled, we will keep them. If they are not enrolled, we cannot actively enroll them. If they have an IEP, they can stay within the program up to the age of 26. We typically enroll students that are 2 or more years behind in credits, and it's by referral process. Within the Grand Rapids Public Schools, it's typically done by the base counselor or the counselor at the base high schools. Outside of the district, they have to meet the same criteria, but they would actually enroll at student services. And at that time, we ask for the same information we request from a Grand Rapids Public School student, and that is the most recent transcripts, their attendance and suspension information. Graduation rates and results at Southeast Career Pathways and Bethany, and I'll speak to the Learning Center, are growing and increasing each year. Southeast Career Pathways have 46 total graduates this year, 44 graduates last year. Bethany had 3 graduates this year and 1 graduate in 2014-15, so last year. Last year, we also had a partnership with Kent County Correctional Facility, which we graduated 3 students as well there.
That's awesome.
And we also have the Learning Center, so the Grand Rapids Learning Center, which had 43 graduates this year, and with summer school should have about 45, and they had 43 last year. So we are meeting the mark of 90-plus graduates and increasing. So our goal is to continue to increase our graduation rates each year.
I did.
Our celebrations
Sorry.
for this year is we had 100% attendance for assessment, so PSAT, SAT, Work Keys, and MSTEP, which is awesome for the population we serve because attendance is a challenge. We had 19 four-year graduates, which is the P cohort, compared to 6 last year. And that varies from year to year, and that's really not predictable because you don't know who is going to enroll in your school. And so that's really right time data, and that can change every day. We saved 5 out of 5 students aging out with 100%, and those students were coming from Union. We had 20 personal curriculums written and approved. That saved 20 classes for our students. We had 15 successful Spanish test students test out for Spanish. They were all native speaking students. We had 16 successful credit recovery test out students, and we had 640 classes completed by the 3rd marking period. And by the end of this school year, we had 11 students that were well into their workforce, so working, and 35 students that applied for college.
That's really awesome.
Really good.
I mean, and we were at the graduation. I think all of us were. But just to see that, excuse me, the accomplishments of these students, and I know a lot of the struggles of these students, you know, and both personally and what happens in the community. So for them to be encouraged that they can do it and that they can go forward and overcome stuff is a testament to the work that you guys are doing. Teachers are investing in them. And we know that it's much, you guys do a whole lot more counseling probably in terms of where these kids are at and what's going on in their lives. So that's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it was the young lady that spoke at your graduation who talked about having been homeless when she was a child. Is that one of your graduations?
So the graduation to which you're referring is the Grand Rapids Learning Center and
GRC,
Adult Education. Most of Stephanie's students go back to their base high schools to graduate. So of the 40 or so students, the goal is go to Southeast, recover, go back to Union or Ottawa or Innovation Central to graduate.
Right. I didn't know they did that. I thought they were. Okay. That's great. Yeah.
Any more questions?
Thank you very much. I believe with that, we're adjourned.
Just happy to get that information.
Thank you. And it's nice to see a principal, by the way.
There you go.
We see these guys, but it's nice to see
We had two today.
a real person. I'm sorry.
We won't take offense.
You know I'm kidding, man.
A real person.
This was good, man.